Hey, good morning. Yes, I am orange today because I'm wearing blue with a blue background. This is orange. I am the new orange man. Listen to me. You must listen to me. Welcome. It's the Dan Dakich here, and it is Don't At Me. I always screw it up, but I want to thank all of you. There's like 115 of you waiting on us, and I thank you for that because I feel like this is a show worth waiting for. All right, before I get into about last night and all that, I love this. I did not have this on my radar, but Antonio Brown is now saying that he was injured. You might as well. Good for him. I'll get into Antonio Brown in a segment that we're going to call I Ain't Mad About It later on today. I Ain't Mad About It stems from a player. When I was coaching a bunch of dudes at Indiana for 7 games, I had a player named Jamarcus Ellis. I had to suspend him. He looks at me, he goes, Coach, man, I ain't mad about it. I go, good, you ain't mad about it. I'm pretty pissed off about it because we're one of our best players and you won't stop doing stupid stuff and now I got to sit your ass. So we ain't mad about it. I ain't mad about it. That is coming up today. I don't know if you saw this. I don't know if you paid attention to this. But last night something happened in the state of Indiana that can only happen in the state of Indiana. Lance Stevenson is a basketball player, a 31-year-old basketball player. His nickname, Born Ready. He's from New York. He's the latest in the line of overrated New York guards, right? Every guy, Sebastian Telfair, Steph, all these guys are great, and they're all pains in the ass, and they all don't get to where they're supposed to get to, and everybody talks great about them because everybody thinks New York guards are great, but they're really overrated and they stink. Anyway, Lance is the most recent, or I guess the oldest, I don't know. He's been bouncing around. The Pacers, I want you to think about this. Now think about this. Literally, 5 years ago, Larry Bird rented out at midnight a movie theater, invited all of Lance Stevenson's friends, Pacer brass, had a big party in a movie theater in an attempt to get Lance to stay as a free agent. Lance, being an idiot, decided to take less money and go elsewhere because he was, quote, disrespected by the Pacers. Lance goes on this NBA journey, and it doesn't work out for Lance for whatever the reason. Lance bounces around. Lance is in the G League. Lance plays one day for the Cleveland Cavaliers, and literally 2 days later, he's playing against the Cleveland Cavaliers. This is the beauty of modern NBA basketball. So what does Lance do last night? In his first home game, we love Lance. Like I'm telling you, in Indiana, pork tenderloins, smoking, natty light, driving in the left lane, and Lance Stevenson. Those are the 5 things we love. And Lance, for whatever the reason, loves Indiana. It's the only place that he can play. So do you know what Lance does? Lance goes out and sets an all-time NBA standard. I don't know if it's a record. I don't know if you call it a record, but it's the first time, think about this, the first time in the history of the NBA that a guy came off the bench in the first quarter and scored 20 straight points. Not 1, not 5, not 10, not 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 straight points. Now, in Indiana, we kind of care about winning, but we more care about things like this. Like writers for the Pacers are like, well, you got to give Lance the ball. Now, make no mistake, the Pacers were up big, blew it, and lost, okay? And I'll get into who they lost to. But what we care about in Indiana is Lance Stevenson. Lance Stevenson said this, I just worked out 2 years waiting for this moment. I'm happy to be here. It's home. It's playing in front of family. Most points in an opening quarter from a player coming off the bench. I think he scored 20 straight. In fact, I know he scored 20 straight. He ended up with 30. Pacers lost. Kyrie Irving was back. The flat earther is back. The flat earther, the genius. He's smarter than you. By the way, Kevin Durant's really good. Yeah, Kevin Durant had 39. What's-his-face had 22. The Pacers folded. The Pacers stink. But all anybody in my world wants to talk about is Lance Stevenson. If we got Lance Stevenson today on my radio show in Indy, it would be the highest-rated radio show ever. Tenderloins, shrimp sauce, driving in the left lane. We love it. Natty Light, Lance Stevenson. That's what we love in Indiana. I don't know why. I couldn't tell you. I don't know. But we love us some Lance Stevenson. This is really weird to me. And I'm not being critical of anything. This is just the world that we live in now. I grew up literally leaving friends, girlfriends to go home to watch college basketball. Like sometimes, and I don't know why, well, I do know why, it's East Coast. Sometimes on Channel 32 in Chicago, DePaul would be playing at UCLA on a Friday or Saturday night. I remember being on a date with a girl that I always wanted to go out with. It was lovely. I said, hey, look, I'm going home. Why are you going home? UCLA's playing DePaul. North Carolina, Notre Dame last night. Nobody cared. Nobody cared. Like they had their D-list announcers. They were doing it from home. They weren't even there. The game was on. Nobody cared. I cannot believe what's going on in college basketball. It'll come back because of March Madness. I understand it. But I turned the game on. The lovely Lee Ross Dakich, my wife, which is, if you want to refer to her, you have to go LLRD, lovely Lee Ross Dakich. That's how she's referred to across the country. We turned it on, and I'm like, listen, there's nothing. There's no juice. I didn't like it. Notre Dame ended up winning. We ended up winning you some money on it. But it made me sad because, frankly, that was a game I was looking forward to watching. I'm like, man. Now, I'm not even going back to when I was a kid. It doesn't have to be that long. Notre Dame, North Carolina basketball? At Notre Dame? Nothing. No juice. You know what was the game of the night last night? I'll tell you the game of the night last night. The game of the night last night was the Penguins coming back and beating the Blues. Look, the Penguins are the hottest team in the NHL. Dakich, you don't know nothing about the NHL. My ass, I don't. Which one of you out there can sing the Blackhawks song? Here come the Hawks, the mighty Blackhawks. Which one of you? Raise your hand. I grew up skating on Pavlik's Pond. My wife, the lovely Lee Ross Dakich, made a skating rink, hockey rink, not skating rink, hockey rink on the pond lake behind our house. We were out playing hockey last year. I know me some hockey. I know Magnuson. Do you know Keith Magnuson? Do you know Stan Mikita? Do you know Cliff Coral? No. Who is the goalie? Tony Esposito. Don't start with me. I know from hockey. And I know the hottest team in hockey is Sidney Crosby's Pittsburgh Penguins. How about this? Rodriguez, Crosby. 2 goals, 12 seconds yesterday in a comeback win. Hottest team in the league? Pittsburgh Penguins. 9th straight win. 9th straight. I've only been to one hockey game in my life, professional. Been to a ton of college ones at Bowling Green because I was friends with the coaches. I don't find hockey that interesting in person. I find hockey exhilarating to play. I can't play because I have a fake hip. And when you have a fake hip, the number one thing the doctor tells you to do is don't fall on your fake hip. So I don't play hockey. But I love hockey. I like watching on TV. I like when Tirico does hockey. But that was the game of the day last night. The Penguins coming back, beating the Blues. Pay attention to the Penguins. Sidney Crosby's a stud, as always. He has been for years. I regret one thing in my sports fandom. You know what that is? I didn't go see Wayne Gretzky play in person. I got to go see Sidney Crosby. All right, last night, you don't care about this, but it's really good basketball. Number 6 in the country, the IU women's team, beat the living you-know-what out of Wisconsin last night. Look, I'm on a mission. I love women's sports. I talk about the lovely Lee Ross Dakich all the time. Well, she was a frickin' Olympian alternate. She was an all-time great in college softball, both as a player and as a coach. Took the Toledo Rockets to the NCAA Women's College World Series at a time when there was no chance a MAC team could go. All while being a valedictorian and hot as hell. That's right, I said it. The boys used to come out just to watch Lee Ross at the time, now Lee Ross Dakich, play softball. I'm a big women's softball fan. I'm a big women's sports fan. My niece, Emily Eamon, is the best volleyball reporter in the country for the Big Ten Network. I love women's sports, always have. always will. Last night, my goal is to drive women's basketball to the forefront. I think it's coming. And in particular, drive Indiana women's basketball because they're fantastic. And I love the fact that Terry Morin gave my show the cold shoulder. I love it. I do. I like it. Maybe I like being spanked too. I don't know. But I don't. But anyway, having said that, they beat the living shit out of Wisconsin last night, 76-53. It's fun when the women's team is really good. Why? Because it gives me, my fat ass, something to watch. I watch the men. I watch football. But women's hoops is on and Ellie Patberg is rolling. I'm watching. I am. And I had one of the young ladies, she since quit. I do interviews with them. They call me when they have papers for a communications class, and they're always cool as hell. I like them. Nebraska last night at Michigan State. Why is this interesting? It's really not. It's not. But one of the things as we move forward with March Madness is you're going to start paying attention to college basketball teams. And number 10, Michigan State, is worthy of paying attention. You know, the other side of it is this. The other is, you know what? We don't talk enough about NBA coaches coming to college basketball. Fred Hoiberg was a really good coach when he had really good players at Iowa State. All right? Here's the deal. He's gone to Nebraska. They fired a guy named Tim Miles, who I thought did a really good job. I did. I thought he did a really, really good job at Nebraska. So they fire him because Fred Hoiberg is a sexy hire. I'm watching Michigan State last night, and Michigan State isn't playing well. My man Izzo's losing his mind because they keep throwing the ball away. But I got to tell you, Nebraska is the worst offensive setup team in college basketball. If you went back and watched this, they have one guy here at guard, one guy here at wing, one guy here at the wing, and a post guy, and everybody stands around there saying like it. College basketball better figure its shit out. College basketball has an offense problem, not necessarily scoring because guys can shoot it, but my God, so many teams run such bad stuff. And Fred Hoiberg coming from the NBA, I swear to God, I would have thought Fred Hoiberg would have been, I don't know, ahead of the curve. That was garbage. Tonight, this bald head, my lovely wife and I, as guests of Chris Holtmann, the head coach of Ohio State, are going down to the Ohio State-Indiana game. We'll be sitting behind the Ohio State bench. Now, those of you that don't know me, I was a 16-year guy at Indiana, 4 as a player, 12 as a coach, fairly beloved at one time. Now that I've become a radio host, people have disdain for me. I was the interim head coach at Indiana. Everybody blames me in different ways for a lot of things, and they can all kiss my ass. I tried to clean up a corrupt program. So I'm going back to Indiana. I've been on the visitor side before, both behind Ohio State and Michigan's bench with my son playing at both schools. But I'm going to go there as a guest because they invited me. I'm going to drive down. I'm going to have a steak at Yanko's, which is also called Little Zagreb's. I would have a beer at Knicks, but it's January, so I'm not going to do it. But I'm going to have a great night. And I'm going to watch a really good basketball team in Ohio State with a really good player named E.J. Liddell take on a mediocre basketball program, my old Indiana Hoosiers. They play sometimes they don't. I anticipate a big crowd. I anticipate, because Hoosier fans are awesome to me, I anticipate everybody, and I anticipate a wonderful night. So that's why this game is up there to watch tonight. Period. I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be really fun. The other game to watch tonight is the Knicks at home against the Celtics. I got to tell you, I don't give a rat's ass about most things NBA. And the Celtics, to me, have zero mystique anymore. Whatever they did with the Celtics is not what everybody else did. There's nothing different about the Celtics. The Knicks are the Knicks. I like watching games at Madison Square Garden. I like Julius Randle for some crazy reason. Kind of like R.J. Barrett, even though I really don't. This isn't an interesting game other than one is 9th. What are they? One is 10th in the standings. One is 11th. They're both fighting to get in the playoffs. The Celtics are on a 5-game losing streak. Celtics stink. And they're all kinds of pain in the ass. But I'm probably going to watch the replay. No, I'm not. I'm lying to you. I'm not watching this. The hell am I talking about? I'm going to be at the Indiana game. And I sure as shit aren't taping the Celtics and the Knicks game. But they asked me to put a game up there that's of interest. What am I going to say? The Clippers and the Suns? Yeah, I probably could. And I probably could watch it by the time I get home. Yeah, I really don't care about the game. I'm just making stuff up here. But when the Celtics play the Knicks, it seems like it should be interesting, and it's not. This is my favorite story. All right, I'm going to give you a minute. We got 195 people watching on Twitter, bunch on YouTube. I'm going to give you a minute. Call your friends. Never complain, never explain. Never, no matter who comes at you. If you believe you haven't done anything wrong, if you believe in what you're saying, never apologize to the mob on this side or the mob on that side. What am I talking about? And don't take people's shit. Aaron Rodgers wasn't taking Arkush nonsense where he called Aaron Rodgers a bad guy because he didn't get vaccinated. Fine, I get it. 90% liberal, that's the thought. He said it, so he has to take the mob from the other side. Fine. So Arkush, who is a known idiot, decides that he's going to call somebody he's never met. I've never met Arkush, that's why I put in the word known. Everybody that I know said, nah, he's just an idiot. I don't know, maybe he's a great guy. I used to read his Football Digest. It was one of those shorter magazines, so he's fine by me. But in this, many people of my friends in Chicago, known idiot. Maybe he's a good dude, don't know. But anyway, I love that Aaron Rodgers called him a bum. I love that Aaron Rodgers is standing up to everybody. I was never an Aaron Rodgers fan, but I'm becoming an Aaron Rodgers fan. He makes sense to me. He says things that everybody should say. Somebody comes at you like a guy named Arkush and calls you a bad guy, you should go right back at him. You should. You don't apologize to the guy. You don't meekly go away. You say, hey, look, the guy's a bum. He's never met me, doesn't know me, never had lunch with me, never done a single thing around me that I know of. I'm sure he was sitting in sitting in a press room. And on the radio show, I'm sure he thought he was a big guy. I'm sure he thought he was a big guy for saying, oh, Rodgers a bad guy, he didn't get vaccinated. I'm sure he thought that all of the professors and all of the media and all of the actors would certainly come to his defense because that's what we do in media. Which way does the wind blow? That's what media does. And then they go in that direction. That's all Arkush was doing. Well, the wind was blowing the other way and people attacked him. Do you know the writer who has become America's conscience? I mean this. A man named Bobby Burack. Lee, you know Bobby Burack. Yep. How good is he? Awesome. Bobby Burack has become America's conscience. Bobby Burack will call things out without worrying about, who's going to get mad at me? So today, Bobby Burack printed in a variety of different ways the quote, what was the right word? Kind of apology that Arkush made. Now, Arkush is a typical guy. When you ask typical guys, particularly typical Chicago guys like me, to apologize, we're always going to get a shot in, right? We're always going to get a little, You're always going to have a little bit of that. So Arkush kind of apologizes. Arkush kind of says, I shouldn't have done that. I apologize, blah, 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 blah. That's nice. But Arkush, you made a mistake. There is never a reason for you to apologize. None. Zero. I think Bobby's comment is right. I'm really not seeing the apology anywhere, but I think it is. Arkush, to me, he definitely apologized. I made a terrible mistake Tuesday with my Aaron Rodgers comments. It was completely my fault. There's no one else to blame. I'm here to try and apologize. And he unlocked it. Here's the deal with Arkush. Don't apologize. There's no reason to apologize. There's never a reason to apologize. Why would you apologize? You meant what you said. You tried to bully, and you got shit on. And if you're Arkush, you've been in this business for 50 years and not one person has ever paid attention to you. This is your time, baby. This is your go time. This is where people are going to know who Hub Arkush is. So Hub Arkush, I own this. No, you don't. So what? Does that make it all right? I mean, I don't know. Listen to this. There is no more respected bastion of journalism in the world than the Associated Press. Shut up. Shut up. Just stop. Stop. I allowed myself to be walked in. No, you didn't. People just lie. I wanted to say this about Aaron Rodgers, and I said it. And if Rodgers don't like it and others don't like it, screw you. That's it. Listen to this. Worse yet, I apparently unleashed a small army of self-styled social media and talk radio experts who have no clue what they're talking about to challenge the quality of the voting process. The voting process sucks. Bunch of old farts that don't know their ass from third base. Now, the old farts take it serious, but shut up with that. Hub Arkush, I got 2 words for you, and they're very simple words. My ass. Somebody finally knows who you are. I'm talking about you on the world's greatest morning show. Own it, baby. Own it. People are nuts with this apology stuff. Bobby Burak, don't ever stop being you. You are America's conscience. Super Bowl has contingency plans. Super Bowl's contingency plans are possibly to move it out of California, which they should, to Dallas, Texas. I wish they'd come to Indy. We're ready. We're ready for the national championship game. Backload it with the damn Super Bowl, and then let's get the NCAA tournament here, and our toes are tapping, baby. Now, the NFL is saying we do this all the time. I'm sure you do, but you should do it immediately right now. California is on lockdown. California is not going to allow you to have what you need for a Super Bowl, which is packed streets, packed merchandise buyers, packed bars, packed restaurants, people buying everything that says Super Bowl on it once they get off the airplane in the Dallas-Fort Worth airport. I mean, if you are smart, and you are, say whatever you want about the NFL, but the NFL understands one thing better than any other league: how to make themselves relevant and how to print money. And the NFL is going to figure this out. The NFL will figure out that, hey, look, Texas, wide open, big stadium, big streets, big environment. It's bigger in Texas. California, we're scared. We're locked down. Why? Because we're liberal. And we want to live scared. Good, live scared. Gone. I'd do it today. You know, Clay Travis been saying that forever. And he ain't been wrong yet about it. Absolutely move that thing. I know you're trying to cover your ass. I know you're trying to say this is what we do every year, and maybe you do. I don't know, but do it. You should. There's no question you should. You're going to have it out there. It's a great spot, beautiful weather. I get it. But the truth of the matter is, so's Dallas, and you can make all your money back that you want to make, or maybe even more that you lost from the previous COVID year. Do it now. Do it right. Get the hell out of California, and let's go. All right. This is interesting. Now, follow my logic here. Urban Meyer is being crushed by players that quit Ohio State. Okay? If you look into all these guys, Williamson quit, this other guy quit, and we take people that were disgruntled, we take their word as gospel. And it's complete bullshit. Okay? Whether it's true or not, I don't know. I don't care. But we take the people's word that are disgruntled. Follow my logic. The NFL has initiated something very dangerous. Teams could lose draft picks by asking unprofessional questions in in team interviews with draft choices. Here's what I'm doing as a team. I'm videotaping everything. I'm videotaping every damn thing, every damn time that I talk to a prospect. Players lie. Oh, hey, look, maybe somebody was told they're going to go 5th in the draft. They don't. They drop. What do they do after? Well, you know, I'm glad I didn't go to so-and-so team because they asked me about my mother. People lie, players lie, revenge is real, and we listen to it. It's a dangerous precedent. Of course you shouldn't ask anybody what did they ask? Whether their mother was a hooker or whether somebody's family member sold drugs? Stupid. Stupid, but you got a lot of stupid people in the NFL. I see it every year at the Combine when all the clowns come in. It's awesome. The level of stupidity among NFL personnel is off the charts. It's great. Whenever I read dumbass questions being asked in an interview, I'm never surprised. Never. Based on what I see at the Combine, the people I run into. However, be very careful if you're the NFL. What determines an unprofessional question? You ever shit your pants? Maybe I want to know. Does a guy choke in the fourth quarter? I don't know. You ever poop your pants during a game? Well, we were playing Clemson. It was late, and I kind of had a little squirt. I am never putting this, the NFL, I'm never putting this in the hands of people that aren't in the NFL. And prospects aren't in the NFL until they suit up for an NFL game. I'm not doing it. But good for them. Ladies and gentlemen, it's always the same people. It's always. Zion Williamson is becoming one of those people. Zion Williamson is becoming one of those people where every time you open up the newspaper, there's something new with Zion Williamson. He's too fat, he's rehabbing, he had a setback, he blah, 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 blah. Zion Williamson is going away from his team. He's going to rehab in Portland. Why Portland? I have no idea. Who cares? If you're under contract for millions of dollars and you're going to be on a team in a city, how about you just stay with the city? But Zion Williamson has become one of those guys, and I'm going to be fascinated to see how the rest of Zion Williamson's career takes off or doesn't take off. Because those guys that are always in the paper, those guys that are always doing something, well, I'm too fat, so rehab hasn't gone well. Well, I'm really in great shape, but rehab hasn't gone well. All right, well, you know what? The fact of the matter is, don't become one of those guys. It never works out for those guys. See Antonio Brown. See Kyrie Irving. I'm just telling you. Crazy. New York City. You're my favorite city. I love going to New York City. You're not my favorite, but you're one of them. Basically, in New York City, if you rob, if you assault, you ain't going to jail. This is how stupid we've become in this country. We've become so stupid and so worried. We're only seeking incarceration for the worst crimes. You know what? I've been robbed. My house has been robbed. It stays with you. My house has been firebombed. Yes, a Molotov cocktail fired at my house, set ablaze, has happened. You ever see those guys running down the streets in like northern Iowa or Beirut throwing those things that explode? That's a Molotov cocktail. Guy fired it at my house, set our garage on fire. I was a kid. That stays with you. I love that the Manhattan DA, I hate that the Manhattan DA is saying we're only going to put people in jail for the worst crimes. You know what that tells me if I'm a criminal? Oh, hell yeah. If I'm a criminal with a criminal mentality, I ain't worried about nothing. Gun possession? No. Why so lenient? Why? Nobody wants to be called an ist. Hey, look, don't do the crime if you can't do the time. Beretta. Simple. But I'm peeing into the wind right here. I am. We accommodate the lowest common denominator now, the criminal. The criminal is someone that wants to take what isn't theirs from you and make it theirs. But we accommodate this person. We're the idiots. It ain't them. We're the idiots. Too many people in jail. Don't commit a crime. I mean, there's laws, aren't there? Now, I know there's extenuating circumstance, and somebody can say, well, that's your white privilege. Hey, man, if I got white privilege, God bless you. I took a little slab of a basketball court in Gary, Indiana, and turned it into a career because I decided not to do drugs when I had the opportunity at 10 years old, because I decided not to rob something when a friend of mine who went to jail with a sawed-off shotgun robbed an Arby's. Just telling you. We're not instructed prosecutors to avoid seeking jail time for certain robberies and assaults. The goal is to reduce the harm the criminal justice system does to defendants. What about the harm that defendants do to their victims? It stays with you. I had a friend of mine locked in a freezer, liquor store in Bloomington, Indiana. He still hasn't gotten over it. We don't care about that guy. We care about the jackass that decided to do the robbing. The world is freaking nuts. Not the world. The United States is nuts. We got the best country in the world, and I swear to God, because we're so scared to stand up, we're so scared to stand up to the lowest common denominator among us, this country's going to hell, and I hate it because I got kids and hopefully grandkids at some point. This sucks. New York City, you suck. We'll be right back with Bobby Carpenter. when I say he's the best, I mean he's the best. I mean, if you watch OutKick all day, and you really should all day, Bobby Carpenter is going to give you a perspective that I think is better than any that you're going to get anywhere else because it's real, and he's been there and he's done it. All right, Bobby, I appreciate you coming on. At BCarp3, by the way, if you want a fantastic follow on Twitter, and obviously the show every day. Let's go through a couple of things, Bobby. Number one, who wins, Alabama or Georgia? Who wins?
Ooh, gosh, this is tough. And Dan, you being in the basketball world, playing teams twice in a season is fairly common. In football, we've seen this now with the emergence of conference championship games and then the playoff, where you see this happen, a couple times. And especially when it happens in such a tight proximity like this, where, it's been a month, but they really only have one other game of game film. I look at this and I'm thinking, okay, Georgia's the more talented roster. They've got a better defense. I think they can run the ball better. With George Pickett coming back, I think that he'll help a lot, and they'll be able to have a little bit more offensive explosion. He did a good job, with one deep ball in the SEC championship. My problem is, Dan, as I look at this, like I can't get past Nick Saban. And if you look at him, I mean, the guy's had 7 national championships. I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I know that Kirby Smart, he's a good coach, but he's 0-4 against his guy. And so when you see that and you see that happening, it's like, okay, what's going on? Why is that the case? And it just seems like maybe Saban's in his head a little bit, or maybe Saban's just the best big game coach that we've seen in the history of college football. And I think that there's a very real possibility that that's the case.
Bobby, I had a theory in betting. Never bet against Urban Meyer and the points. Same theory with Nick Saban. I'd never bet against Nick Saban when he's getting points. But I swear to God, Bobby, when I watched that game, both games, and I watched every second of both, Georgia was the most dominant team I've seen in a long time. They were crazy good.
They've been crazy good all year, but they really haven't played in close games, Dan. And so they got into a close game, and then all of a sudden against Bama, Bama, they spread it out. And I understand they don't have Mechie, and that's going to be, a hindrance for them being able to push the ball like they did in the SEC championship. But I think people are overreacting, especially the betting line, when it's been around 3.5. Bama's the underdog by 3 points. You saw what happened in the SEC championship game when that was the case. And I think people are overreacting to watching Bama or Georgia beat up on Michigan. And the problem with that is Michigan was a bad matchup with Georgia. Like they're like a Georgia light. They can't really push the ball down the field on the perimeter. They have a good defensive front, but not probably as good as Georgia's in totality. They try to run the ball and bully you, but they don't do that quite as well as Georgia. And if you get down, they have no avenue to come back and be able to challenge down the field and pass the football at a really high level. So you lump all of those things together, and I think that was just a bad matchup. And so they get blown out, and now all of a sudden people are thinking, well, Georgia's fixed. Georgia's the same team they were. Stetson Bennett looked good, Dan, because he was playing from ahead. It's so much easier to play quarterback. It's like being a pitcher in baseball, whether you have a lead in basketball. When you've got a nice, comfortable 10-point lead, you feel good, you're more confident, and there isn't quite the same stress and pressure because you're the one that's dictating tempo. And so when I look at this with Stetson Bennett, a lot of the same things are still going to be there. He played a really nice game against Michigan, but Alabama has the Heisman Trophy winner and the best coach in college football, and a defense that has been playing pretty well. They did a good job against Cincinnati. Cincinnati's a really good team. They were able to run the football on them. I don't know if they'll run the ball with Robinson quite as well, but if you're going to give me 3 points in Alabama, I'm going to take Alabama outright.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm like, you mentioned Robinson, 55 yards over 200 last time out. I mean, it's going to be somewhere in the middle, right? I mean, he was banged up a little bit in the SEC championship game. He's been banged up all year, right? Can they run the ball, Alabama?
I think they'll be able to run it effectively. Like Robinson's not coming out and having 200 yards. Bama's not rushing for 300 yards in this game. I think he'll probably run it to the tune of 70 to 80 yards. They'll be effective. It'll be enough to keep Georgia off balance. And then look at what happened in the SEC championship game. The guy who can really hurt you, because it's when the play breaks down, it's a defensive coordinator's nightmare. It's Bryce Young. He's really athletic, man. And I didn't realize how athletic he was until that SEC championship game, because he's never really pulled it down and run and put moves on guys. But when you're talking about playing for the national championship, like There's no sliding in this game. You're going to get all the yards you can. And if Bryce Young does that, I don't think Georgia has an answer.
Bobby, we're seeing transfers. Caleb Williams from Oklahoma, all that kind of stuff. Where are you at? Because this is going to be a bidding war now, right? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but if I'm a guy that's a high-profile transfer, I want to go where I'm going to play. I want to go where I'm comfortable. Maybe I stay. I don't know. But how are you with the bidding wars that have got to be going on here for guys?
So I'm all for player mobility. The ability to have players move, coaches can move. Now they have to pay buyouts. Someone's paying those, whether it's the coach or the team that they're ultimately going to. We talk about the NFL and player movement. Well, you have contracts. You can't move as a player on your own until the completion of your contract. And so I believe me, I'm all for the players getting NIL money. I think it's great. The problem is the NCAA waited way too long, and now they've got this monumental problem on their hands since they just kind of wasted away for, 10 years instead of trying to solve it, just threw their hands in the air. And now it's a mess. And so I'm not like with Caleb Williams, like I'm getting in the portal. I may come back to Oklahoma. I want to hear what everyone has to offer. Essentially, I don't think that's ultimately good for the sport. Like you can't do that in the NFL. If you just have a great year, your coach leaves like, hey, I have 2 years left on my deal, but you know what? I'm going to go out there and field offers from other teams. And so there has to be some parameters around this to where, like I said, maybe you can't transfer until after your second year, or I don't know exactly how it works. But like I said, I'm pro player mobility. I'm pro NIL. I want to see those guys get everything that they can. But just the problem with it is you have to have some guidelines in life. And it's like, all right, my situation changed, or I had a great year. I want to go out there and just have people be full free market. And like, I'm a capitalist. I think that's great. But I do think that it will erode the fabric of what college football has become. Like even in professional sports, there's a reason why there's reverse order drafting and all of these things. Like that's not fully free market. You have free agency, which allows the players, but you do restrict entry just to create parity and to make sure that you're continually putting a good product out on the field. And so that's something I think that they have to find a solution to. I don't know if they're really even trying right now. They're waiting on Congress, which, I mean, if you're waiting on Congress, buddy, you better start building a casket because that's going to happen first. So I don't know what the solution is, but with what happened with Caleb Williams, I'm not banging the kid. Like he's operating within inside of the rules. I just don't like how it's set up right now.
Look, it is what it is, and I agree with everything you said. I just wonder what's going to happen in 5 years. And you know what else I wonder? I wonder what happens when a lot of these guys there's a thing in the Bible, just because you can have everything doesn't mean you should. And I'm just curious 5 years from now. And where's education in this, man? For years and years and years, all we heard was athletes need to get educated. Athletes aren't getting educated. Where the hell's education in this? And people laugh at me for saying it, but as a former coach, I swear to God, I led every recruit meeting, every home visit with this is what I'm going to do, educate. This is who I've graduated 100% of it's not even a factor anymore, man. It is I don't know. I wish I usually like to bitch when I have an answer. I really don't have an answer.
Well, and that's the problem, Dan, because usually these things move in progression, so you can find small answers. You can kind of work towards the end of it. I mean, this is basically not studying for an entire 15-week semester and then trying to write a term paper on the topic you were supposed to be learning about in one day. Like, I don't know if you can find a good answer in a quick amount of time. It's going to probably take a couple of years. Like, I've heard people throw out this as a potential solution. Like, you know what? Forget about the scholarships. These guys want to come in. Like, you can either do, transfer NIL. Like, there's some combination of this, but, you're going to pay for your own schooling out of your NIL stuff. And so that's going to be a piece of it. I do think as well, one of the things that has been neglected is, providing these guys now that they're, in a situation where they're earning, like, and I was a business major in college. I got to the NFL and realized I didn't know crap about business. I went back and got my MBA and realized, like, okay, I learned some more technical stuff, but the only way you can really learn about it truly, it's like trying to coach off watching Madden, and playing Madden. Like, you have to get in there and get experience to it. And I think that, one of the things that they could provide with this is a big time financial education piece, not just of like what you spend, this and that, but understanding contracts, understanding what you're getting into, understanding if you sign an exclusive deal right now with company A, that's 3 years, you might be eliminating a better deal maybe in 6 months from company B if you play a lot better. So just going through some of that, working through these things, because most guys experience this at life, as you mature and you get older. And I'm sorry about my soapbox now, but like your wages increase with your experience in life. Whereas now these guys, it's reverse. You're at the top of the mountain early on, you're given all this, but your experience level is at the bottom. And so you don't want to see that painful process where by the time you figured it all out, you've already squandered a lot of your wealth.
It's funny, I told my son when he was living in a high-rise at Michigan and had all the facilities at Michigan, and then he went to Ohio State and he was living in this beautiful place. I said, you got to understand something, man. This is the best you're going to live for about another 20 years. And he didn't believe that. And then next 2 years later, he's a grad assistant at Ohio State and he's living in, a house with 5 guys that has rats. So, Bobby, what does loving to play mean to you? I know Herbie's catching a lot of hell about the loving to play. What does loving to play mean?
I guess, and this is something that, like, going through the draft process, NFL GMs would always ask, and I tell people this all the time. Just because someone's really good at something doesn't mean that they love it. Sometimes it does, but not always. There's people that have just been physically blessed that are really good, and they play and like they get notoriety from it. It becomes part of their identity, which I never think is, a truly positive thing either. But, it becomes who they are. And eventually they've gotten to a point in life where this is just what they've always been. And they don't love it, but they do it because they're good. And it provides them a financial lifestyle, reputation, notoriety, all these different things. And so NFL GMs, I had so many of them ask me when I was coming out, like, do you love the game? I'm like, yeah, I love the game. Like, and I didn't start playing football until I was in 7th grade. My dad wouldn't let me play before that because he's afraid I'd get hurt. So I truly enjoyed, practicing for the most part, like not every day, but I liked going out to practice. I love the games. I love training. I love the preparation for it. It's like, I enjoyed the sport. Now, when you get injured, when you get beat up, that's when it starts to take a little toll mentally. But I think loving the game is like, would you do it for free? I laugh at guys, my dad's generation. His first contract, he's like, I'm making $15,000 a year. He's like, I was a 3rd-round pick. He's like, I thought I was living large. He's like, your mom's a teacher making $5. I'm only making, 10 grand more than she is. He's like, but I'm getting to live my dream. He's like, I've always wanted to do this. And so while the financial rewards have increased to the point now where I understand guys making business decisions. And so some guys I think are torn. And I look at Chris Olave in the Rose Bowl. He loved his team. He wanted to be around them. And you make a kid choose, like, sometimes where, hey, you've worked to this your whole life. You really didn't come from anything. And if something happens right now in this game, maybe you never get to play it again and you're not financially set up. And I understand, how that works. But, loving the game, Dan, like, this is another – my kids play a bazillion sports and it's all scheduled. It's all this stuff. And I'm like, man, I remember the days, and I sound like old dude, shake your fist at the sky, where, you know what? You just go out and play hoops in the backyard. Like, you get some kids from the neighborhood, you go play soccer, football, whatever the season, baseball, like, hey, let's just go play something. So I didn't need to make sure I played this sport and that sport and this sport to work on all my skills and have all these practices. Like, playing with your friends was playing sports. And so it was like a win for everything. And so I loving the game to me is like, hey, you go pick up and you go do it. You see a ball, or when you see, a pair of ice skates, or when you see whatever it is, like, you just want to go do it. And that's always what it's been to me, regardless of it. And I've played with some guys who love the game. I love the game of football, and it's given me so much in life. I'm eternally thankful to it. And I love watching games. Like, I love sitting down and watching games. Like, I enjoy watching basketball games, but I'm somebody, because I love basketball growing up too. But I'm someone, like, I love to compete. Like, I love swimming. I swam, like, all this stuff. And that's what, I guess it means to me. Do you love it? Like, do you want to watch it? Do you want to watch other things? Like, do you love to compete as much as just as you love sports? And I think we've kind of lost that, Dan, after giving everyone a trophy for 25 years. Like, I don't know if there's just that natural love of competition anymore, where you see a guy like Tom Brady, who has everything in the world. He's going down as the greatest player ever in his sport. That is done and determined. He's made a ton of money. His wife has probably made more. He's, in his mid-40s. He's got a family. Like, why do you see him get so upset, so frustrated? Like, because he loves what he does. Like Tom loves to compete. And Dan, he is the same way in OTAs in May. When he throws in there, I picked him off one time and he was furious. I pitched the ball back to him. He's yelling at Wes Welker about, running the right route. I'm like, dude, this is like the third OTA in May. Like, what the heck? We didn't lose a game. This doesn't matter. But that's how he's just wired. I think we've kind of lost a little bit of that. Parents are competitive for their kids, but I don't know if we have that competitive nature in society of what made America so great for so long.
Well said. Here's what I look at. I remember telling Coach Knight this, and this was really stupid. And Knight's practices were brutal, like freaking, But I remember telling him one time after a practice, he asked me about, how I'm doing. I go, Coach, you guys got this all backwards. I'd pay you to play here in Indiana. Like, you guys are giving me a scholarship. I would pay you guys to play in this, but now it's all different, and I get it. And Bobby's not saying you can't, love the game and miss a bowl game. Of course you can. I mean, and I loved watching the bowl game. My fat ass sat down, and I've never watched more bowls, and the theater was great. My thing is opt in, opt out. You do you, man. But my fat ass is going to sit right there, and I'm going to watch, and I'm going to love it. A lot of crap thrown Urban Meyer's way by former Ohio State players. Here's what I do, Bobby. This is just based on my experience. People can crush me for it. I always look at the experience that the guy who making the allegations, bitching, whining, moaning. What did he do? Did he get arrested? Did he quit? Almost invariably, the guys that bitch the most quit or got arrested or something. What is your take on what's going on with the former Ohio State players in Urban Meyer?
So I put some of this out on Carp's Corner, and I researched it.
It was really good.
Well, thank you. Because I talked to guys who were there on the team. Some of the guys who were in the room, when some of the stuff, had happened, and there was some miscommunication. And I will say this, like, they have a policy, and you have the same policy in the NFL. Like, coaches don't allow hoods up or hats on in meetings. Why, Dan? Because guys fall asleep. All right. Like, get your stuff off. I want to see your face. Did. That's what I'm saying. Like, that's regardless. It's not a racial thing. Like, it didn't matter what you look like. Get your hood off and your hat off and sit here and pay attention. And so that, they had some stuff in there, and there's a picture of that. And like, okay, I get it. I understand that. Guys talk to them. Hey, sorry. Like, most coaches are oblivious to what's going on, like in the real world. And so they talked to the veteran players, talked to them about it. It was all good. And so I talked to some of those guys, like, yeah, we made a mistake on this. We shouldn't have had this picture in the slideshow and everything. Like, do you feel like there's anything else? Like, and you being around Urban, every guy who I've talked to, white, black, or whatever, they're like, listen, Urban hates everybody equally. Like, there's no like discrimination. Like, and you don't realize that at the time. And this is the problem. Everybody feels like it's also personal with them, but he's saying the same stuff to everyone. And that's the way, like, a lot of coaches are. And that's the way that it goes a lot of times. And so like you said, I look at the guys who are saying this, one of the guys quit, threw his gloves, and he did the Antonio Brown before Antonio Brown did it. And Marcus Williamson, who I like a lot, Dan, he's a Central Ohio kid. I talk to him all the time. Like, I'm always partial to guys from like the region that I grew up in and want to see him have success. And, he's a great kid. And he starts talking about all this. Like, man, like, sometimes there's guys that are better than you, and they played you your whole senior year. And then you're going to go to the bowl game, and they're going to play some young guys. So you're not going to the NFL. You're just saying you're not going to play. And then you drop all this out there, like when you were coming back for this extra year because of the brotherhood and everything else. And so, like, I'm not a black guy, obviously. So I talk to other guys. It's like, hey, man, what's your experience like? And so theirs is different because, they played, and like, hey, I understand what was happening. I understand that this is good for me, and this is the case. And so, like, with all of that, with all that transpiring, like, I think what Urban did, like, it was a tough program without a doubt, but I don't think you'd find it, to me, if you're going to really dig, like, you think about all the guys you coach on a football team, it's 100 guys a year. You're going to have to find a sample size bigger than like 3 or 4 or 5 guys over a 20-year career before I'm going to really take a lot of this stuff seriously, when there are things that are said and talked about, like, in big groups, and it's something that everybody's around. Like, don't tell me you just interpret it differently because you're such a small sample set of a bunch of people who've experienced the same thing.
I had a black player one time give me a big hug. He said, Coach, you're the first white guy that ever had the balls to yell at me. And I'm like, really? I go, that's kind of sad, isn't it? And he goes, yeah. He goes, yeah. And, you know, but that kid had a great career. You know what I mean, Bobby? Like, that kid had a great career. Ended up in the NBA and, you know, at Bowling Green. And look, I know one thing. I know that former players have been great to Urban, and I know that the thing that the media is going to perpetuate is the other thing. So you know what? You know what you do in this world? You just live with it if you're Urban, and you just move along.
So
you know what I mean?
I'm with you. There was a coach on the staff. I'm going to keep his name off of it. And he's a black coach, and he was coaching some of his players, young guy, and he's talking to him, and the guy just starts walking away. Like mid coaching point, like not yell. I mean, it's a stern talking to about coaching points about how to improve. And I mean, it's a little old school. The coach grabs his face mask and pulls it back up to him. He's like, we're not finished yet. I decide when the conversation is over. And Keith continues to coach for 15 more seconds and then walks off. And I look at him like, that's pretty stern. He's like, have you ever seen anything like that? He goes, these guys have been done a disservice. He goes, I don't care what color your skin is. He's like, been done a disservice their entire life because most players don't get yelled at anymore. And so they take any type of coaching, if it's a little bit critical, as personal. And now you're like a hater. He goes, I'm trying to help you, man. I'm trying to get you on the field. I'm not just telling you you're bad. I'm saying that wasn't good. Here's what you need to do to get better at it. And he goes, we've lost that because so many coaches now in high school, and basketball is the worst. Football is getting there a little bit where I want to be your buddy as your coach because it's going to help my career, as opposed to holding you to task and making you the best player you can be.
Yeah, you don't have to be a jackass, but I'm with you, man. Look, I know this. As I've gotten older, and I know we don't really necessarily respect people my age or even your age, but as I've gotten older, I look at the things that I've been through in my life, whether it's losing a job or getting divorced, and I'm thankful for them. I am. I mean, you keep going and you learn, and then, you become a better person. Bobby, this is the fastest half hour I've had on this show, man. I appreciate you so much for coming on and taking the time. I really do. That was fast. That was great. Thank you.
Hey, my pleasure. We're getting into some big picture topics here, man. Societal stuff. And to me, sports has always been a microcosm of like the great parts of society. And so when that fabric like starts to tear away, like my dad always says, like everybody used to serve in the military, 50, 60, 70 years ago. You're going to World War II, you're going to Korea, Vietnam. He's like, now the only crucible where you can develop young men and even young people is sports. And he goes, and as that begins to fade, he's like, where does the challenge come in life? Where are the difficult times and experiences to prepare you for the times in life that you mentioned, Dan, when you get fired, when you get divorced, when you don't have any money, your car breaks down. Go watch the Kurt Warner movie, American Underdog. Like, I thought I knew Kurt Warner and what he'd been through. I have infinitely more respect for this man now after seeing the type of man, father, husband, and all the stuff that he has been through to get to where he is now, which is really like all people care about.
Bobby, I blame people my age. I blame my age because we were the first. I remember signing up for the draft knowing I wasn't going to get drafted because it was my dad's like, yeah, the war's in a position, Vietnam, you're good. But I had to go sign up at the post office. And I contend that parents, the people my age that didn't have to serve, softened this whole deal up because I would have been a much better person had I had to at least gone to boot camp. I swear to God I would have. And I talk about it with my friends all the time. We're like, you know what? Would have hated it, would have cried like a baby, but honest to God, I think we all talk about it. We all, black, white, everybody my age, when we get together, guys from my high school, we're like, man, we'd have been much better people in the military. Not that we're bad people, but I just think that that's lacking, and there's nothing. It ain't going back. Let's put it that way. Bobby, thanks, my friend. You're the best.
Hey,
thank you.
My pleasure, Dan. Thank you.
All right, that's great. I'm telling you, that was a fast half hour. We're going to be right back. I got a lot. I got a ton. Playoff scenarios, you name it. I got it coming up. Go tell your friends right now. Go tell your friends this is the greatest show you're ever going to hear. We'll be back. All right, let's talk some scenarios relative to the NFL. All right, the NFL this weekend, we got a lot going on. Let me start with my little town here, Indianapolis. Now, you got to understand something about Indy. Indy is not just hosting the NCAA, or I don't know, whatever the hell you call it, college football championship game, which we are, and we're very excited. And if you come to Indy, you're going to have a great time. Speaking of that, why do all Georgia fans and Alabama fans, at least the men, the boys, look alike? They all look alike. They got floppy hair. It's crazy. Anyway, all right, last hour of the show, we're going to talk about some scenarios. And now there are a couple of scenarios that I am fascinated by, and one of them is in my own city, and in my city being Indianapolis. Here's the deal. The Indianapolis Colts, all right, the Indianapolis Colts are simply in a win, tie, or go home scenario. They were in it last week. They were in it against the Oakland Raiders. And if you saw Hard Knocks last night, they made a big deal out of COVID. Well, what they didn't make a big deal out of was the fact that the Colts defense can't close games. And I don't think this is going to be a problem. In fact, I have vowed to do my radio show in Indiana naked if the Colts lose this game. Now, does that mean I'm going to be sitting there in all my splendor? Yes, but you're not going to see it. I'm going to have a YouTube channel, and it's only going to be this. But yes, the Colts are going to win this. There's no way they lose this game. I mean, let's be honest. If you're playing for a playoff spot, who would you rather be playing? Okay? Who would you rather be playing than the Jacksonville Jaguars last week of the season, coming off a 50-14 ass beating with a coaching staff in Jacksonville that everyone on that team knows is the real problem, the offensive coaches. That team has quit. You can talk about Trevor Lawrence all you want, and everybody's so afraid to say Trevor Lawrence stinks. Well, Trevor Lawrence has stunk this year. Now, I don't care what you say. He has stunk. Period. He's been no good. That team, no good. Zero good. Not good. Bad. Period. All right, here's the deal, though. The Colts can get in if a winner tie or the Chargers lose, Baltimore, Pittsburgh tie, or Chargers lose, Pittsburgh loses, and Miami wins. I got a headache. I got a headache. Here's what's going to happen. Colts aren't losing that game. Colts are not losing that game. That is not going to happen. Now, one of the interesting things is if the Colts do lose, Pittsburgh and the Chargers can both get in with a tie. Now, Staley, the coach of the Chargers, said, we're not doing that. We're not going to do that. But I kneel down, you kneel down, I kneel down, you kneel down, you kneel down. I kneel. Next thing you know, you got a tie. And next thing you know what you got? You got both of you in the playoffs. It'd be tempting to me. I understand. Actually, I don't understand. You know, I heard Zach Staley say, well, you know, it's the Shield. We respect the Shield. Shut up with the Shield. The Shield by ass. The Shield has hired rapes, robbers, criminals, murderers. Stop it. Stop the Shield. Stop the Shield. The Shield is about one thing and one thing only, and that is money. That's the Shield. It isn't about honor. It isn't about integrity. It isn't about anything. It is about money, and I would not be the guy blaming anybody if you took a tie should the Colts lose and both of you get in. Chargers win, they're in. Chargers win or tie, they're in. Pittsburgh could get in, Colts lose, Chargers and Steelers tie. All right, numero deuce, and it is the Chargers. They get a playoff berth. Should they win or should they tie? And I think they will. Here's an interesting thing, and this was brought up yesterday by Big Cat on here. I don't know. Is Justin Herbert one of those guys that can go win you 4 playoff games? Some people say yes. I would have said yes at different times during the season, but by the end of the year, I'm kind of, no. I don't think Justin Herbert's that guy. I honestly don't. I don't think Justin Herbert's the kind of guy that can go ahead and win you 4 games. I just don't. So they're going to get in the playoffs, and maybe they're one and done. Maybe they're not. I don't know. But I know this: they're going to beat the Steelers. It's magical though if they don't. All right. Numero tres. The Los Angeles Rams are going to clinch the Western Division title with a win or tie or an Arizona loss or tie. Boy, do I think that's going to happen. Look, to me, the Rams are taking on San Francisco. Jimmy G was good for a while. I don't buy any of them. I don't buy Jimmy G. I don't buy this team. I don't buy any of it. I want to go back to one thing, though, on the Chargers. I do like the Raiders. I do. I think the Raiders are pretty good. But anyway, I don't buy Jimmy G, and I do buy the Rams. The Rams want to clinch the division. The Rams want to get a chance to at least play a game on their home field. Everybody wants that. They're not going to get the bye. That's going to go to the Packers. There's only one bye this year. But I think this is what's going to happen. The Rams will clinch the division with a win and or an Arizona loss. Well, I think they'll win. I do. I think they're going to win. I think that the Rams are really good. I think the NFC is going to be dynamite. I know we don't have Stafford in there in terms of MVP voting, but man, oh man, when I talk to football people, they talk about the loss of Robert Woods. They say Robert Woods was the guy that did absolutely everything. Robert Woods blocked. Robert Woods went out down the field and blocked. Robert Woods looked over. Somebody made this point. Robert Woods would look over his shoulder, see what he needed to do, and execute downfield blocks better than any wide receiver in the league. And Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay still has these guys rolling. I think it's fascinating. Stafford not in the MVP vote. Stafford certainly for legacy needs some wins, and it needs to start with home games, and they need to beat the San Francisco 49ers, and I think they will. Let's talk about the San Francisco 49ers and the New Orleans Saints. The New Orleans Saints are interesting. The New Orleans Saints are a team that a lot of people, I think, have discounted, including me. Taysom Hill is your quarterback? Child, please. When they lost Jameis Winston, who I thought was playing pretty well, child, please. I think New Orleans might get in. Here's how New Orleans gets in. New Orleans gets in if they win. Now, you got to take care of that. But they also get in if the Rams beat San Francisco. Now, it's a pretty good scenario for New Orleans when you think about it. It's not like San Francisco is playing Jacksonville or Tennessee, or Texas. Houston, I mean. What the hell's wrong with me? Or even Atlanta. I mean, the 49ers are playing the Rams. The Rams are playing for something big. Here's the caveat to all of this. Stay with me here. In college basketball, the last week of the season, crazy things happen. Last place beats first place. Teams playing to get in the tournament get beat. I mean, crazy. I haven't studied the NFL enough, but I say this every year in college basketball. Crazy things last week of the season. Crazy. Crackers. Nuts. So, what would be crazy? I personally think the 49ers with Jimmy G or what's his face? The quarterback, Trey Lance. I think them beating the Rams would be crazy. I do. But I don't see it happen. I see New Orleans winning. I see New Orleans winning and getting into the playoffs, and I think that'll be fascinating because I think they'll be the worst team in the playoffs. I do. Think about all the playoff teams. You know, if the Chargers get in, the Colts get in, think about all of them across the board. If the New Orleans Saints get into the playoffs, they are the worst playoff team because they have the worst quarterback. I wouldn't say that if Jameis Winston was around, but they absolutely, positively have the worst quarterback. And when you got the worst quarterback, you got some real trouble. And frankly, that's exactly what I see them happening. All right. Let's continue the conversation, shall we? Let's move the conversation along. I got a segment here, and I like this segment. It's called I Ain't Mad About It. I ain't mad about it, people. I ain't mad about it. Now, where'd that come from, Dan? Well, here's where it came from. It came from a guy named Jamarcus Ellis. Jamarcus Ellis was a player in Indiana. Jamarcus Ellis had a problem, not smoking weed. So I had to suspend Jamarcus Ellis when I became the head coach of Indiana on an interim basis for the last 7 games. I didn't want to because I wanted to win. I figured, hell, we win, I'll get the job. But when I suspended Jamarcus Ellis, you know what he hit me with? I ain't mad about it, coach. Well, I was pissed off about it, right? I was hostile about it. I mean, what the hell? Best all-around player. So whenever my wife and I discuss something, I go, I ain't mad about it. Well, here's what I ain't mad about. Antonio Brown, I ain't mad at you. And I ain't mad about you, Antonio Brown. Everybody's mad at Antonio Brown. Look, Antonio Brown is a function of our bullshit society. Antonio Brown is a function of what we want in our society. We want fake. We want excuses. We want high drama. Look at the movie Don't Look Up. And look at the clown show that gets represented here off of social media. Antonio Brown may have, what did he say? Broken bone, fragments, torn bone, cartilage, fine. He can say whatever he wants, and good for him. I'm all in on you, AB. I am all in. You are just a symptom of our bullshit society that rewards bullshit. You're the best. You're the best bullshitter we got. You keep coming back. Assault, you come back. Another assault, come back. Fart all over your doctor. We love you. Don't pay any of your bills. We love you. Take off your gloves. Go naked towards the end of the game. We love you. Show up at the game. Drop a rap album. We love you. You're full of shit, Antonio Brown. But you know what? I ain't mad at you. You know why? Because you are exactly what this society stands for. Not sorta, not kinda, exactly. We're a bullshit society that supports complete and total bullshit. So I ain't mad at you. You are who we want you to be. We need more bullshit people. We need more Kardashians. We need more Tristan Thompsons. We do. We need more Scott Disick's in our world. Look him up. Telling you. We don't need any more of him. The world is full of shit. And Antonio Brown, you fit right in. You're doing exactly what everybody wants you to do. Hey, I'll tell you what I ain't mad about. Let me see what's next here. I ain't mad about books. I ain't mad about books at all. But why is it? Why is it? And I was on the phone with Lauren and then my wife yesterday. Lauren didn't do it. Everybody in my life does this. It's January, okay? And in January, I'm reading books. Why is it that every single person in my life, when I ask, hey, look, I'm going to the bookstore to buy a book, they only recommend self-help books. That's all they recommend. Well, you know, I got this book about being fat. Well, you know, I got this book about being old. Well, you know, I got this book about narcissism. Well, you know, I got this book about taking a dump and wiping with your left hand. I had so many books, and they're all self-help. You know what I wanted? I wanted to read about Atlee Pine. You know who Atlee Pine is? FBI agent in a David Baldacci series about finding her twin sister, Mercy. That's all I wanted. I read the last book, the conclusion to the series, but I'm like, you know what? I like Atlee Pine. I want to read about Atlee Pine. But no. Every swinging, you know what, in my life, well, you know, my mother, she just had knee replacement surgery. Well, you know, Daniel, there's a great book on cutting sugar out of your life. Do I need that much help? Do I? The answer apparently is, oh, hell yeah. Oh, hell yeah, I need that much help. It's unbelievable. Is this your life too? If it is, email me, dan@1070thefan.com. It's freaking believable. Everybody in my life with the self-help books. Tell you what else I ain't mad about. I ain't mad about Tom Izzo yelling at players. I ain't mad about it. I ain't mad about it even a little bit. I'll tell you why. We need more of it. I'll stand up to all you little that are mad when coaches yell, well, that's disrespectful. What's an 18 to 22-year-old done to earn that kind of respect from an adult that's in the Hall of Fame? I'm watching Tom Izzo yesterday. I text with Tom Izzo all the time. And he's like, hey, Dan, I ain't stopping, man. I ain't stopping. I'm holding people accountable, and I'm going to continue to do it. One of the worst things about college sports is how afraid we are. One of the worst things about the NBA is how afraid coaches are, how kiss-ass to the players the media is. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. It's over. Done. Man, we went from 500 viewers to 250 real quick. They must not have liked my self-help books. Another thing, I ain't mad at Lance Stevenson on the Pacers. I ain't mad about it. You can be mad about it. I ain't mad about it. Why ain't I mad about it? I ain't mad about it because Lance Stevenson scored 20 straight points last night in the first quarter to set an all-time NBA record. No one's ever done it. Lance Stevenson can't really play dead. Like Lance Stevenson leaves Indiana, he is awful, terrible, ridiculous. Can't play even a lick. Not even a lick. Seriously, not even a lick. But he's great on the Pacers, and I love it. I ain't mad at you, Lance. I'm mad at the media. They think this is like some great thing. Stop it, stupid. All right, last thing I ain't mad about. I ain't mad about two SEC teams in the national championship game. I ain't mad about it. I won't be mad about it. A lot of people are mad about it. Here's what I want. I want the two best teams. And when I watch those two teams play, it's a big-time game. We all want Mercer to beat Duke in the NCAA tournament, but ain't nobody watching Duke take on Gonzaga, Mercer take on Gonzaga in the second round. We want it. We want the upset, but ain't nobody watching it in the second round unless it's Gonzaga taking on Duke. That's it, period. Seriously, don't at me about it either. If you at me about it, we're going to throw hands. Because I'm telling you right now, nobody wants to see it. Player to player. Let's go player to player. I was a player. I think like a player. I wish I didn't think like a player. Sometimes I think like a playa, but I am a player at heart. Jonathan Taylor, you're my favorite. Jonathan Taylor of the Colts is the most humble dude walking. Jonathan Taylor of the Colts is a guy that if you don't like Jonathan Taylor, that's on you. Period. Don't at me about it. Just don't at me even a little bit. Jonathan Taylor, to me, is everything you want in a human being. Let me go through. Great athlete. I'm not going to lie. I want people to be great athletes. When I look at people, I want them to be great athletes. I morph towards great athletes. You all may morph to something else. Great. I morph, love being around great athletes. I got a stepdaughter, great athlete at Harvard. Like being around her. My stepson, great athlete. Allegheny, love being around him. My son, Big Ten basketball player. Love being around him. Summertime, Eric Covey, defensive back. Syracuse, starter. Love being around him. Love it. All right? You may not, I do. Number two, smart as hell. Jonathan Taylor could get into Harvard. He could get into Harvard. Got accepted to Harvard. Number three, doesn't talk about himself. If you watch Hard Knocks, one of the things that you learn is Darius Leonard's kind of full of shit if you were a player, and Carson Wentz talks about himself a lot. Jonathan Taylor doesn't talk about himself. Doesn't talk about himself even a little bit. Incredibly humble. There's nothing worse than being around people that talk about themselves. You tell a story, they're going to one-up you. I was that guy a few years ago. I'm not that guy. Why? Because I recognized it, and now I'm concentrating on talking about others. Jonathan Taylor is humble. Jonathan Taylor does not talk about himself. Last thing, Jonathan Taylor has had great success. It hasn't changed him. I saw it. You're seeing it with Dan Orlovsky on ESPN. Dan Orlovsky was great. Now Dan Orlovsky thinks he's something. He's still just a guy that ran out of the back of the end zone. Who gives a shit about Dan Orlovsky? Same thing with Louis Riddick. Who gives a shit? Nobody wanted Louis Riddick as a front office guy in the NFL when Louis Riddick was in the NFL. Now you can tell both Orlovsky and Riddick are really important people to Orlovsky and Riddick. Jonathan Taylor has not changed. Jonathan Taylor is the same person every day. I know a lot of people that know Jonathan in and around town. Obviously, I don't hang. I'm almost 60. He's like 22, and I don't want to hang with Jonathan Taylor. But the truth of the matter is everybody loves the dude. Everybody that's around him says that he is exactly what you see on Hard Knocks. All right, I have a favorite player going into Georgia, Alabama, and I want him to be your favorite player as well. You ready for him? His name is Nolan Smith. Now, I'm not talking about the guy that is the assistant coach at Duke who whines about everything NCAA. I'm not talking about that guy. I'm talking about Nolan Smith, linebacker. Nolan Smith, linebacker for Georgia, was awesome in an interview. They asked him, he goes, look, I just want to win. I've never won anything. I've never won anything. We've won games, but frankly, I'm 20 years old. I've been playing football since I was 4. That's 16 years. Haven't won anything. Haven't won a championship. And that's the one thing that keeps me going. I'm reading this verbatim. I could care less how it gets done, how pretty it looks. I just want to win. Nolan Smith also said, I always wanted to tell my kids that we left a legacy at the University of Georgia. Nolan Smith is number 4 on Georgia. Nolan Smith is awesome. Nolan Smith, to me, that's exactly what I felt as a player, except I was a little more selfish. He gets to play all the time. I was kind of hoping the guy in front of me turned the ball over so I could get in the game. But Nolan Smith says what most say. Nolan Smith is probably an NFL guy. I have no idea. I haven't listened to, guys give me rankings, and I really don't care. But Nolan Smith, to me, is exactly what 90%, 95, 99% of kids going to college want to do. They don't give a shit about the NIL. They don't give a shit about opting out of bowl games. The stars do, good for them. But most of us that went to college to play sports wanted to play on championship teams, wanted to make lifetime friends, wanted to leave a legacy. Like if I was going back, and when I used to go back to Indiana with my kids, I would show them pictures of me on walls. Assistant coach on a championship team, player on a Big Ten championship team. I did it because that's pride in who you were, and you want your kids to share in it. I love Nolan Smith, man. I love dudes like that. I hope Nolan Smith wins. I got to make sure about that depending on how I'm betting. But I want Nolan Smith to do really, really well. I'm telling you, you can bitch, whine, and moan all you want. You really can. I mean, we can complain about, players. We're only really complaining about the 1%. Guys like Nolan Smith, guys like Jonathan Taylor, that's who real college athletes and professional athletes are. Good for you, Nolan Smith. I ain't mad at you. Player to player, don't stop. We'll be back. We got our boy Arky Shea's coming up. We're going to make some money tonight. Let's go. We'll be right back. You know him, you love him, you watch him right here on OutKick. He is Arky Shea. It is OutKick the Bets. Arky and I are going to make you some scratch. That's right. And don't at me about it either. It's going to happen. I'm angry. I'm angry mad today because I lost my Alabama State bet last night, but I won the 3 others. All right, Arky, how are you? Number 1, number 2. I am going to the Indiana-Ohio State game tonight. What say you about that game?
Actually, I think I was going to ask you a little bit about this because I feel like I like Ohio State a lot more than I liked them like 6 weeks ago. They feel like they're rounding into form. They won 5 in a row. They got a couple of Big Ten road victories already on their schedule, already behind them. If you like Ken Pom, Indiana's a really good defensively efficient team, but I'm not sure where I sort of right on this. I feel like this is going to be another E.J. Liddell show. Am I wrong on this?
No, here's the deal. I know Ken Pom loves Indiana. Indiana, when I watch them, and I don't watch them with the sound on so I can make my own judgment, they're okay defensively. I don't think they're great. I don't think they've played teams that attack them inside. I think they're okay on the perimeter. I think they do a decent job keeping people in front of them. Here's my problem, Arky, with this. I swear to God, this is my problem. I always think Indiana's going to win at home. I was there 17 years, and I don't know what our winning percentage was, but it was pretty good, and I always think that they're going to win. Having said that, Chris Holtmann owns Indiana University. I think I would go over 137 if I were going to bet it. Which way are you betting it?
I love the over in this game. I think I'm going to Ohio State, but Indiana's right. They're 9-0 at home, 7-2 against the spread at home. I mean, that's nothing to sneeze at, but there's also some cupcake teams that are on that list too. So I
Absolutely.
can't completely trust that. I feel like this is another Chris Holtmann. I feel like Ohio State is the team now that we thought they were going to be coming in and starting the season. I think they're starting to hit a stride right now, which is a really important time for them.
Well, they've gotten some guys off the bench that are going to make some shots. And here's the thing that I learned over the course of my time at Indiana. You got to make shots in Assembly Hall. And what do I mean by that? Truthfully, you're not going to out-hustle Indiana in Assembly Hall because the crowd's too good. You're going to get some bad calls. I swear to God, they call it the Hall of Calls for a reason, right? I mean, it's Assembly freaking Hall. I used to swear to God, I used to sit next to Coach Knight on non-conference games. If we were struggling, I'd nudge him. I go, hey, you got to stand up. What are you talking about? You stand up, change the game. He would stand up. Ed Hightower would call 3 travels, and we would be back in business. It's a time, I'm telling you, making shots. And I think Ohio State has enough guys. And then if the crowd gets nuts, they can go to Liddell on the block. And Zeb Key is damn good down there, too. Zeb Key is a tough dude. I'm going to take the over. Gun to head, I'd take Ohio State, and I'd take the 2. Ohio State's getting 2, right?
That's right, getting 2.
Maryland, Illinois, what say you, big boy? Illinois looked pretty good on the road against Minnesota.
Yeah, they did, and they did pretty good because they had a 3-week off stretch where we hadn't got a chance to see them in a long time, so they still look pretty good, which is good for us, I think, because they got an 11.5-point spread here tonight, and I'd like to give Maryland a little bit more love, but Maryland can't shoot. They can't shoot for 3 from beyond the arc. They can't shoot inside the arc. They can't shoot free throws very well. They're just not a very good team scoring or even defending. I can't figure out why Maryland is this down right now. I don't know if it's just pure talent, but listen, if you give me a chance to get under, let's just say 20 points for its spread when I got Alfonso Plummer and Kofi Cockburn there, I like my numbers there. Kofi Cockburn's averaging 23 and 12, and he sort of exploded onto the scene last year for a lot of people, and this year he's been nothing short of spectacular again. And Plummer's got over 20 points in 7 of his last 9 games. He is a stud for Illinois. I like them just about as many points as you can be able to give me against that, especially at home at the, what do they call it, the House of Pain in Champaign. Yeah, I like Illinois minus 11.5 in this game, and I don't think it's even that close, to be honest with you.
All right, I got to correct you. The Illinois SID, when I first did Kofi Coburn's game, Derek Brunson came up to me and goes, hey, I know how it's spelled, but it's Coburn. It's Coburn. I go, you think I want to say Cockburn on the air? You think I really, you know what I mean?
Well, you know why they're telling you that, right? Like, you got to pronounce it a different way, but it's not Coburn, really. Let's not do
I
that.
know. So everybody we got this thing, right? When he first came out, like, hey, you got to call him Coburn. I like the 11.5. I'll give Maryland credit. They went to Iowa. Now, Iowa's not overly talented, but they went to Iowa and played them, up at half, played them pretty good. Here's the problem for Maryland. Maryland has a guy named Darryl Marceau. Darryl Marceau is not playing at Maryland anymore. He went to Marquette. Darryl Marceau was a tough-ass dude for Maryland. He could make just enough shots. He could get to the rim. You know what he was, Arky? He was like Seinfeld. You know what I mean? Like Seinfeld, George probably wouldn't talk to Elaine. Kramer wouldn't talk to any of them if it wasn't for Seinfeld. That was Darryl Marceau to me. He was the guy. So I'm with you. I think the more you lose, like Maryland's losing, they ended up getting beat 7 or 9 at Iowa. They don't have their go-to guy. They're moderately talented, not overly talented, moderately. I agree. I think this game with Illinois, 11.5. Illinois fans are waiting for Andre Corbello to come back. They also are anxious about him coming back. They want him back because he's talented. He's not back yet, but that dude turns it over. They don't turn it over nearly as much without a really talented Corbello. I'm with you on that one. All right, Titans -10 at the Texans. We all know Derrick Henry, I don't think is going to play. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But I also know the Titans have shown one thing this year, and that's a hell of a lot of toughness and pride. They're playing for the number 1 seed. What do you like? It's -10.
Well, the interesting thing is, like, they may not even have to play all their starters, depending on what happens with Kansas City if they lose to the Broncos on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, that's true.
So going into Sunday, we'll sort of see what their strategy is. But the thing about the Texans and the Titans is, the Texans' weakness is the Titans' strength. And I know that they beat the Titans earlier this season, but that's when the Titans weren't doing what they're clearly doing well now, which is running. Even without Derrick Henry, their strength is being able to attack the line of scrimmage, and they've done that with a plethora of dudes. Houston's the last-ranked team when it comes to yards allowed rushing on the ground this season, and the Titans, shockingly, are number 1 even without Derrick Henry be there. So that's going to be a strategy regardless of whether or not Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill are your main guys on Sunday anyway. I agree. I don't think Derrick Henry is going to play regardless of this. But if Davis Mills, who has been a steadying force for the Texans, can make a couple of plays early, he completes a lot of balls, doesn't make a bunch of big plays, but doesn't make a bunch of mistakes. If he can continue to be that steady force and make a couple of plays early, they can make this spread a little uncomfortable. But I think the Titans eventually salt this game away. I think they're going to need to win this game to get the number 1 seed and to give Derrick Henry another couple of weeks to come back. So I like the Titans -10 on the road.
Do you generally, I know this year's been different because the double-digit spreads have covered. Do you generally like a double-digit spread? It's been a weird year for that, hasn't it?
Yeah, I don't. I've had to learn a little bit on the fly this year. The Bills have covered a whole bunch of these spreads. Like, there's been a few teams that have actually been really good. Like, we saw the Jaguars game last week get just annihilated for the 16.5. What was it, 50-10 or something, that game for the Patriots? There have been some the thing is, like, there are abnormally bad mismatches when it comes to not only just the player talent, but the coaching talent, too. And this looks like it's another one. David Culley's probably coming back for the Texans, but Mike Vrabel is a hoss. And I know they got in the back of their head that they're going to be able to not only get revenge, but get that number 1 seed, and they'll do whatever they can to be able to get it. So double digits usually I don't like, especially against the Texans, because they've actually been kind of good against it. But I get a little heartened back noting that they got punched in the face a little bit by San Francisco last week. So I'll be back on the double-digit wagon for the Titans this week.
The biggest spread, the biggest, now we've had in my city of Indianapolis, we've had Peyton Manning, we've had Andrew Luck, but we've never been favored by 15.5 points. This is the most the Colts have ever been favored in a football game, at least since being in Indianapolis. It's against the Jaguars. It's to go to the playoffs. What say you here, Arky?
Will, has Peyton Manning had himself an opponent quite like the dysfunctional Jaguars with everything on the line?
I don't think so.
Yeah, it's not only that. Like, you talk about this offense for the Jaguars, like, it is putrid. I mean, it was late in the game that the Jaguars even got their last touchdown, or the only touchdown in the game, to make it 50-10. And that was his first touchdown, Trevor Lawrence's, in 5 weeks that he's passed for. Like, it's just an awful offense. And we're talking about when I started to believe, at least in a game for them against the Texans, when Urban Meyer was gotten rid of. That coaching staff is dysfunctional. I think they've quit on the season. I think they're actually the only NFL team, to be honest, and to be fair to everyone, that's actually quit on this season. So I think the Jaguars are ready to be done with this season. I think the Colts have obviously every motivation in the world. They need a win to be able to get into the playoffs. And Carson Wentz isn't as bad as a lot of people want to say about him when he gets into situations like this. And it is a big one. And let's not also forget who's really running the show offensively for them and what drives that ship. I mean, it's Jonathan Taylor in the running game. So I actually like the 15.5 against another big double-digit spread. But, like, the Jaguars are just the worst. And, like, not just this year, over maybe the last 5 or 6 years. And that includes some pretty bad Lions teams.
One winning season in 14 years. One.
Yeah.
That's one more than a dead man coaching the team. You can throw a bag of sand out there for 14 years, and they would have won more than they've won. 15.5, man, that's a sad number because it's 2 touchdowns, a field goal. There's no chance, zero chance anybody should, or let me put it this way, Arky. Is there a reasonable reason why anybody would look at that and say, God, I'm going to take the Jaguars. I'll take the 15.5. A reasonable reason.
If you just blind bet double-digit dogs, like if that's what it is, like if that's just your thing, you get to like over 15 and you say, I just start blind betting. But I mean, look, the Colts are third in the league in interceptions. Like, they force turnovers. Defensively, they're good. Like, there's no real reason. If you lose this bet, you lose this bet, but I think you make the right choice when you go 15.5. Maybe you buy it down to 15 a little, but even that's not really a number that's going to change much as far as the spread, so, or as far as like how we think the outcome of the game is going to be. So yeah, no real reasonable reason to.
No, sometimes you can make up a reason. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I've done it more than 100 times in my life.
Right. You know, you overthink it, and you're like, oh, this is good. Backdoor cover, field goal late. Screw it. Chargers. I saw the Raiders last week, big boy, and I got to tell you, I'm now a Derek Carr fan. I am. Arky, being in the building, he controlled everything. That last drive, that Renfro kid, I mean, damn, Hunter Renfro. What do you like here? What are you seeing? What are you thinking?
Yeah, this is for me the toughest game of the week, and clearly it's a big, obviously, divisional matchup game, and I love the Raiders in general because they're such a pass-happy, stat-oriented offense, and I love watching that kind of thing. But also, that's literally their entire offense. Like, their running game is basically non-existent when it comes to balance anywhere near in the league or on that team. They have 5 runs over 20 yards this season. That is easily the worst in the league right now. Josh Jacobs and company just don't seem to get a lot of openings on that offensive line. But Justin Herbert and the Chargers are more consistent. They're more balanced. And even though both these teams like to pass, the more efficient passing team looks like it's the Chargers. They got more touchdowns passed does Justin Herbert have. They have fewer interceptions for Justin Herbert too. I think this comes down to which quarterback makes the right decisions late in the game. And I'm kind of leaning toward Herbert, even though I'm a big Derek Carr guy. I don't know just how, as a team like the Raiders are, you get through the chaos of this entire season, and it still continues to work for you. Like, you still be able to gut it out every single time. I'm surprised they're even in this position now. But if I'm leaning my money, which I'm clearly here, I'm taking another favorite, another road favorite, and I'm taking the Chargers -3. I don't love it. It's not going to be my biggest bet. It's the hardest game I've had to probably bet in the last couple of weeks. But I'm going to look at the Chargers -3 in this game because it is, for me, it's a smarter play. They're the better offense balance-wise, they're the better offense when it comes to keeping the turnovers down. And I think that matters in a big game like this.
You know, it's funny. I feel like Derek Carr had a great game last week, particularly at the end, and I feel like that just means water's going to find its level, and this could be 2 interceptions. Yeah. You know what I mean? Right? Does that make sense? Right?
That makes 100% sense. It's like Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins literally is a tremendous quarterback, but his career is literally 500 against the spread. He's going to come back and disappoint you soon.
Yes.
You just got to figure out the spot. Like, it's going to happen.
Yeah, you just got to wait it out. It's going to happen. Like I hate to say this, but we said it about the Colts. Colts are playing so well for so long. You're like, God, they're going to have a clunk. I don't know if they had a clunker, but Derek Carr, give him credit. Eckler's back, right? Austin Eckler's back. We're good with him. I love that kid.
Yeah, me too. I love that kid a lot too.
Yeah. Hey, thanks, my man. What's on the show today?
We're going to talk a little bit more about these games. I got a couple of prop bets we're going to give up with Kayla Kanarim coming up at 11:30 Central Time. So I'm excited for that. And, maybe we find out the correct pronunciation for Kofi Cockburn.
It's the SID staff of Illinois on the line. Coburn! Thanks, Arky. You're the best.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it.
You're the best. That's awesome. That's Arky Shea. Check him out, man. OutKick the bets at Arky, ARKYSHEA on Twitter. He's really good. It's a good show. It's really a good show. You can get information a lot of places, but one thing I like about OutKick, we don't have agendas, man. There's no narratives here. All right, speaking of agendas, speaking of narratives, hey, Lee! I got to talk about a couple of books. I've talked about this book before. It's Danuary. And in Danuary, we're trying to make everybody named Dan, or everybody that wishes they were named Dan, better. How are we doing that? Well, I'm actually getting fatter. I'm not drinking, but I think I'm eating too much. My wife told me last night, why are you putting your hand in the Cheerios? One of the things is weight loss. Another of the things is exercise. Another of the things is read a damn book. Get off social media for a little bit and read a book. To that vein, I want you to check this out. I've talked about this, and I've talked about this. There's a book called Wild at Heart. Now, Wild at Heart is a book that basically gives us men permission. All right? Permission to be men. Now, I want to say that again. It gives us permission to be men. Son of a... You know what? Like, we got to act a certain way. The world has become incredibly effeminate. Like, the effeminate energy is insane for men. Look, I get it. Nobody wants you to be a jackass. Nobody wants you to be, mean, abusive, swearing, angry. No, but John Eldridge and Wild at Heart, the book, explains that men are protectors, men are hunters, men will do things that men are supposed to do. It's biblical, and it's really well written, and it's a bit freeing for men. It allows you to be a dude, not a jackass, not obnoxious, not a bore, but to be a dude, to be what dudes are supposed to be a protector, to be a provider, to be a warrior. It's really good. And in this month of January, I highly recommend this. I do. I'm sorry, but it may offend some of you that talk about cis, all that. That's great. Good for you. But there are some of us here that talk about stuff like, hey, I'm in charge of making damn sure that I provide for my family. You don't like it? Tough. I'm in charge of protecting, particularly my daughter, my wife, my stepdaughter. You don't like that? That's on you. But that's how I look at it. If you don't like it, fine. But for those men out there that are struggling with the effeminate world that we're living in, where they're telling you you're supposed to act a certain way, Wild at Heart is really good. The female version of it is called Captivating. I asked my wife, I want to involve everybody here. So give me a book, because as I said earlier, you know what? Jeez. Everybody in my life thinks that I need a damn self-help book. Okay. Well, my wife suggested for women, Captivating. It's by John and Stasi Eldridge. Same writers. I think you'll love it. I do. I think you'll absolutely love it. It's called Unveiling the Mystery of a Woman's Soul. Now, I get it. You know, the vast, vast minority are going to rip you. That's fine. Good for them. You're going to get ripped no matter what. No matter what book you go in and buy, if the wrong person sees you that disagrees with it, they're going to crush you. Who gives a shit? Go get Wild at Heart if you're a dude. And then let me know what you think. I do think you'll really like it. I do. Most men will read it and go, all right, that speaks to me. It's not overly religious, but it has a religious element. And it's the same thing with Captivating. It's not overly religious, but it has a religious element. And I think you'll really enjoy it. Look, I am not telling anybody how to think or what to think, or I don't care what you think, actually. What I care about is living honestly. That doesn't mean I'm telling you all the stupid shit that I've done. It just means, you know what? We all make mistakes. We're all looking for something. Frankly, men are being made to be far, far, far too effeminate. Wild at Heart may change your view. Wild at Heart may give you permission. I hope it does. All right, as always, I got to thank to America's best and finest and most fun spelunker, Donnie, and his son Dexter, who made an appearance on our Zoom chat. Thanks to them for setting everything up. Jesse, thanks to you as well, and especially thanks to Lauren, who basically sets the entire show up. You got to understand, when she's not bitching about the Jets, which all Jets fans do, or not rooting like hell for Seton Hall, she's sending me homework every night, so this show actually garners some structure. We miss Stephanie. She went on to bigger and better things. Lauren will too. But as long as we got Lauren here, we're going to have a hell of a show. As long as we got Donnie here, as long as we got Jesse here, we're going to have a hell of a show. Thanks to everyone that tuned in. If you want to see or hear more of this, I'm at 107.5 The Fan, also known as The Dan this month, as we celebrate January. 107.5 The Fan, 12 to 3. I'm driving downtown Indy. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. We'll see you on Monday. It's the last show of the week.